Thanks for joining us today. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Ijun in Seoul. Coming up on today's edition of Business Daily. Korea has pledged to invest nearly $6 billion in future growth engines, including autonomous cars, drones, as well as augmented and virtual reality. More Korean companies are planning to tighten operations next year as business conditions haven't improved much over the past year. These stories and more coming right up. The Korean government has announced an ambitious plan to boost the economy and create hundreds of thousands of new jobs by developing leading technologies of the future. Our Oh Soo-young starts us off.
Korea is going to invest billions of dollars in leading industries of the future. The Trade Ministry on Wednesday announced its plan to nurture 12 key sectors that are expected to be at the forefront of the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution. These include electric and automated cars, robotics, biohealth, as well as next-generation displays and semiconductors. Over the next 5 years, some $5.8 billion will be funneled into research and development for these fields. The government hopes to create the optimal environment for research by improving personnel management, strengthening competition, and attracting professionals from abroad. Regulations will also be stripped back across the 12 sectors to stimulate business developments, boosted by supportive measures for new technologies such as preliminary certification to help fast-track commercialization. By developing these industries through public-private partnership, the government hopes to vitalize the economy and create 380,000 new jobs. These industries made up 6.6% of Korea's exports last year. The government hopes to double that figure by 2025. Oh Soo-young, Business Daily.
Let's now get a quick check on how the markets fared here in Seoul today. The benchmark Kospi ended the day down, closing at 2,037.96. The tech-heavy Kosdaq advanced 0.1%. On the foreign exchange counter, the Korean won barely moved. This as market bellwether Samsung Electronics shed 7,000 won to close down nearly 0.4%. Now, earlier in the session, it had touched a fresh record high, its third this week, hitting 1.827 million won, on speculation that the company could report better than expected earnings for the fourth quarter. Over on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was just 26 points shy of reaching the 20,000 mark, though it did clinch another record close. The tech-heavy Nasdaq and S&P 500 also wrapped the day in the black. The number of businesses operating here in Korea rose 15.5% as of the end of last year compared to 2010. Statistics Korea says the figure came in at around 3.8 million, with nearly all industries seeing a rise, except for the arts and sports sectors. The largest increases were seen in publishing and broadcasting. The number of businesses in those fields shot up by more than 60% over the past 5 years. Those in the arts and sports sectors dropped nearly 2%. Korea Employers Federation says that nearly half of the country's businesses are opting to tighten their belts next year. And this follows a number of cuts to the country's economic growth outlook for next year. For more, we have our Shin Semin in the studio with us. Hi, Semin.
Hi, Tia.
All right, so companies don't really seem to have a positive view on business conditions for next year.
You're right, and this doesn't come as a surprise for a lot of us, since a lot of uncertainties lie ahead. And it's only natural that this is still being reflected on business management plans that companies are drawing up. And as you said, the KEF, Korea Employers Federation, recently did a survey on 259 firms, asking them about their business plans for next year. And the general consensus is that they will not be expanding operations next year, considering the slow-growing economy. Nearly half of the companies surveyed said they would tighten operations next year, while just about 20% of them said they have plans for expansion. Now, this isn't actually that much different compared to their projections from last year, but it is an indication that companies continue to believe business and economic conditions won't be improving anytime soon. Now, breaking this down into their by their plans, be it investment or employment, this is what you get. As you can see here, more businesses have pledged to reduce investment, while nearly half have decided to keep investment and employment at current levels.
So we've talked a lot about the risks stemming from the incoming Trump administration in the U.S., but what are some of the other factors that the companies are pointing to?
Well, topping the list was a political uncertainty as well as social uncertainties, social uncertainty looming within Korea, that is. Companies say basic conditions for business remain extremely uncertain, and large industries are going through restructuring. Exports still remain weak, and private consumption still losing steam.
Currently, the country is at a standstill with the president at the risk of being impeached for her involvement in the ongoing political 최순실 scandal. With that comes a potential early presidential election expected sometime next year. So for a large portion of the year, businesses are going to be put in an unsettling situation, directly leading to a fall in investment.
On top of all that, external uncertainties like trade protectionism pledged by the Trump administration, as well as rate hikes by the Federal Reserve in the U.S., suggest more changes are expected down the road. Relations with China also present more difficulties for Korea. Seoul and Beijing have been at odds over controversial THAAD deployment to Korea, and we've seen forms of alleged economic retaliation, like Chinese authorities carrying out additional tax audits against Korean firms doing business there, and Korean cultural contents being banned from Chinese broadcasters.
So then what does that all mean for the Korean economy down the line? I mean, for a very long time, the Korean economy has been driven by conglomerates and their success.
In short, that means worse job conditions, worse job market, and more constricted investment from businesses and tighter spending for households. And this is all due to heavy reliance on large businesses, as you said, since they have been shouldering a big part of economic growth.
Roughly 60% of Korea's growth is mainly driven by the prosperity of companies, and 30% by private spending, and the remaining 10% by the government and its initiatives. It's like a cycle. If firms don't expand, that hurts consumer sentiment as well as investment, worsening overall business conditions, and this then leads to even more tightening among companies.
The experts specifically pointed to a more difficult job market next year, adding that especially for young Koreans who are already facing poor conditions, and things will get even worse.
But then, are there any signs of positivity that could help the country improve conditions? I mean, how do analysts see this country, Korea, getting through all this?
Experts point to government in their role as to fostering growth, whether it be cultivating new growth engines, working out a mechanism to pair up workers laid off from the ongoing corporate restructuring drive with other industries so they can find different workplaces and continue to develop their skills. And another important element will be how to get businesses and households to spend again. Just today, Market Tracker CEO Score said the top 100 companies in market cap held a combined cash surplus of over $46 billion as of the end of the third quarter this year. That is up 118% on year. In other words, companies have been piling up cash. And that goes same for the households as well, as the household savings rate is on the rising trend, with the figure expected to be at 8.6% this year, up from the 3% level seen 4 years ago. So there is more room for companies and consumers to spend, but the challenge will be how to give them enough confidence to open up their wallets.
So I guess as we heard earlier in the newscast, that the government is investing more on future growth engines that will definitely help us down the road.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure.
Delaying or giving up marriage has been a noticeable trend in Korea over the past couple of years. And a recent survey shows that this is true not only for tying the knot, but also for engaging in social activities as well. Our Lee Joo-young has more.
Putting off marriage has become a widespread trend lately amid unfavorable circumstances that make weddings a luxury for many. But this phenomenon has become prominent particularly among those in their 30s. According to a survey conducted every 5 years by Statistics Korea, roughly 36% of Koreans in their 30s were single, extending the steep upward trend. For men, the figure was generally higher.
I feel like I can't afford to meet people. I want to have my own family, but there aren't that many opportunities.
In fact, the statistics agency says the group of Koreans most engaged in social activities like fellowship groups, cultural activities, and religious organizations were those in their 50s. When it came to people in their 30s, the participation rate was under 28%, dipping about 5 percentage points from half a decade ago.
I think the overall sense of community has weakened as society becomes more complicated, diversified, and individualistic.
With an increasing number of people continuing to refrain from marriage, this poses huge challenges for the country's future as the overall population continues to get smaller. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
Now, flying drones in certain areas is far from easy. So the government is going to allocate funds to help local manufacturers develop drones specifically tailored to the needs of state agencies. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
The Korean government announced plans to directly invest in a number of consortiums led by local drone manufacturers to develop drones that will be put into use by state-run agencies. A combined $672,000 will be allocated to a handful of local drone companies within a 2-year period to upgrade their hardware and software. They were screened in a series of tests by local experts and consultations in the field. One of the consortiums led by Internet of Things-related solution provider Huins aims at building drones for the National Police Agency, focusing on search and surveillance purposes. The company's product is currently able to fly a 2-kilometer distance within 40 minutes in a single charge and says it plans to install high-tech cameras to aid its missions.
We're planning to build surveillance drones that can simultaneously operate its high-quality optical cameras with 12 million pixels and thermal cameras to aid authorities search for missing persons during nighttime or in remote areas difficult to access.
The company says it will work on incorporating artificial intelligence to quicken the search process so that the drone can independently distinguish whether a display figure is a human or simply a moving object. This can considerably reduce the search time, which have so far been done manually. Another consortium, led by local startup and unmanned aerial system developer ENG, has been tasked with upgrading its drones so that they can fully function in environments that are traditionally unfit for operation, that is, over the high seas. The drones are to be built for use by the Busan Regional Office of Oceans and Fisheries to aid the agency's maintenance and inspection of floating buoys for the safe passage of ships during nighttime.
The drone is able to fly over the ocean even in strong winds and wet conditions.
For now, structural developments to the ENG's drones prevent the aircraft from falling into the ocean. The company says it plans to make the drones transmit data in real time and allow them to take off again if they happen to fall into the ocean during their operations.
Unlike previous drones, our drones don't have to tilt face down to advance forward in windy conditions. The drone's main body remains horizontal, with only the slope of the drone's motors tilted forward in such conditions. This is possible due to its software that detects rapid weight and slope changes and immediately adjusts them.
When the 2-year consortium expires, both companies plan to make their improved drones available for use among private industries under the price tag of around $25,000 for each unit. Kim Ji-yeon, Business Daily.
And that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check back with us tomorrow at the same time, same place for your Business Daily. Until then, goodbye.